Let's talk about consequences for the relationship. You said that this isn't the Cold War. This isn't like 1968, that the Russians can't get away with it. So what leverage does the United States have over Russia right now?
Well, in 1968, the Soviet Union occupied the capital, overthrew a government, and frankly didn't care because it didn't want to be integrated into the international institutions. Russia does care. Russia sees itself as a modern state. It apparently wants to have it both ways. On the one hand, it can use disproportionate force against its neighbor, and then it can still be welcomed into the halls of these international institutions. It's not going to happen that way. Russia will pay a price. We will look seriously with our allies and bilaterally at the consequences of this Russian action for Russian integration into these institutions. But Russia has already paid a price because its strategic objective of undermining the democracy of Georgia, of destroying its infrastructure, is not going to succeed. And what is more, Russia has caused a backlash among the other small states, many of them which, by the way, are now integrated into the European Union and NATO, like Poland, like the Baltic states, and even Ukraine, whose president went to stand with the Georgian president.
You talk about the tone of the U.S.-Russian relationship. This is how President Bush ushered in that relationship 7 years ago in Slovenia. Let's watch.
I looked the man in the eye. I found him to be very straightforward and trustworthy. We had a very good dialogue. I was able to get a sense of his soul. I wouldn't have invited him to my ranch if I didn't trust him.
Was that trust misplaced, Secretary Rice?
Look, it was absolutely the right thing to do to give Russia a chance. It was the right thing to give Russia a chance to have a path toward integration into Western institutions, into a modern state, into responsible behavior in the international system. That's still the right path for Russia. The fact that Russia, over the last several years, has demonstrated that it's not prepared to go fully on that path is Russia's choice. It was right to give them the choice. It is Russia that miscalculated. It is Russia that misjudged. And Russia is now seeing that the European Union and the United States will not tolerate the kind of behavior that they engaged in as the Soviet Union before the end of the Cold War. The Cold War is over.
Expelling them from the G8 and other measures is on the table.
Well, David, let me just say, on the point that the Cold War is over, that means that the Cold War is over also in terms of what Russia can do and get away with. And so we will take our time and assess where Russia stands in regards to these various diplomatic and political and economic institutions. Right now, we're focused very heavily on getting Russian forces out of Georgia, getting the ceasefire to hold, helping the Georgian people in humanitarian terms. We are going to help to rebuild Georgia in a major way because it will reemerge as a strong economy and a strong democratic state. We will turn to the Russia relationship with the West. I will go to Brussels on Tuesday. We'll begin that conversation in NATO. But I want to be very clear, Russia has already paid a price. Because when President Medvedev said that he wanted to be forward-leaning and forward-looking and look to integration into Europe, his troops have done significant damage by instead damaging Georgian infrastructure and killing civilians in Georgia. Georgia will rebuild. Russia's reputation may not be rebuilt.